Good day to all. Welcome to Extreme Recap. A small dragon tries to flee in a dim room with doors. In order to catch it, a senior man pursues it. But when he turns around, another man has locked the door so that he can't get out. A ball of magic is thrown at the man by the elderly man. However, after many years, nothing happens. Paul is already having trouble despite the fact that it is a typical London morning. He sleeps late, his shoestrings break, the toaster oven is harmed, and he needs to rush the whole way to the spot where you'll have a prospective employee meeting on his way there. Mani, a strange old man, interrupts the conversation by swearing. Paul was once someone he knew. Paul ignores him because he doesn't recognize him. Currently, hurrying to line up, Paul is forced to chase a small dog that has stolen his scarf at that very moment down an alley. He suddenly loses sight of the dog. However, there is a door that says applicants, so he decides to enter a strange room. He discovers Sophie, a woman who appears to be watching television while also waiting for the interview. Paul doesn't talk to her as he sits next to her. Therefore, he watches TV. Additionally, he discovered he missed the company's introduction. He still doesn't know what the job is. The only thing he knows is that the company is called Wells & Co. The brochure on the table is also useless. All it says is that he's lucky. Mr. Tanner enters as the room suddenly bursts into laughter. Before telling Paul to follow him, he dismisses another applicant and somehow knows Paul's name without asking. They ascend the stairs to the boss's main office. Along with Van, Bay, Judy, and Casimir, the other board members, Wells is waiting. Paul responds as best he can to the bizarre questions they pose to him. However, he never ceases to be confused and awkward. He is also being distracted by the wallpaper cracks, which he thinks look like London maps. Wells is impressed despite the fact that the others are blind. Sadly, Tanner sends him away, declaring that they have had enough. Paul finds the dog holding a scarf as he exits the building, as if the animal had been waiting. Minutes after the fact, Paul returns home and is upset to hear his flatmate is moving out and a contention follows. Since Paul can't pay the lease alone, a letter is abruptly pushed through the mail slot by an odd claw. Paul rushes to grab it as well, surprised to discover it originates from Wells when he never provided them with his address. Paul is ecstatic when he receives a letter informing him that he has passed the interview, which is even more surprising. Paul goes to work the following day with a very upbeat attitude. Rosie, the receptionist, also refuses to explain the nature of the position. She also called Tanner, who picked up Paul and took him around the building after she gave him a mug. When computers reach an area that is being fixed, they are not permitted in here, as he explains they're a law firm. Paul carefully makes Tanner walk around a stapler on the floor while Tanner tells him not to panic. They continue through a number of strange offices, including one with a huge map and a lot of telephones, where Paul believes he sees Monty. Additionally, they go through one containing numerous typewriters and tubes. However, Paul has no idea what they're doing. Tanner also refuses to answer his questions. Paul is eventually taken by Tanner to the most secret office, where Sophie is also waiting. Tanner promises that someone will bring them chores before they leave, and the two of them are now taking turns. Paul keeps talking incessantly due to his nervousness, but he is extremely awkward. Sophie is also unimpressed. A strange creature suddenly bursts out of the shadows and shakes him off his feet. He gets closer to get a closer look. At that point, all he can see is a standard mouse. When Rosie shows up, she gives them a bunch of maps and tells them to circle the places where box-side deposits are. Even though he has no idea what he is doing, he still spends the entire morning looking at the maps with Sophie. The pair stops for noon, and on their way first floor. It's odd that Sophie wants coffee when just a moment ago she said she didn't like it. After that, they meet Judy, who takes them to a park. A canister is thrown out of a sewer lid at once, and Judy picks it up right away. After that, she explains that the woman sitting on the bench is reading Atonement, and Sophie can't help but wonder how she knows where she is in the book when she reads about the character jumping into the fountain. As a result, Judy instructs her to stand in the bushes while she observes from a distance. Sophie focuses on her surprise. As soon as the reader reaches the appropriate section of the book, she finds herself seeing what the woman sees. Judy moves her finger when Sophie gives the order, and the man sitting by the fountain falls into the water right away. Soon after, the bench lady rushes over to check. A romantic relationship develops. Judy tells Sophie that she did a good job and that the man's parents had spent a lot of money to get their son married. The woman seated on the bench but acting in this manner makes them believe that it was fate. Paul, perplexed, inquires about the situation. Additionally, Judy explains that Sophie possesses mind powers because she is a seer. Finally, Judy explains precisely what the business does. It turns out that the majority of Wells' employees are magicians. They're practical wizards, who use their magic to perform services for clients in exchange for payment. Despite the fact that Sophie is an intern, she already operates at a completely different level than Paul. Also, Judy only brings Sophie along. Paul gets back to the upper room office and has a sandwich while checking the guides out, when he moves his hand to remove the crumbs from the bread. He is experiencing an odd sensation in his palm. He moves his hand above the map out of curiosity, experiencing the strange sensation and realizing that the paper is changing. A current suddenly hits Paul's fingers, pointing to the location containing box side deposits, as Wells enters the office and instructs Paul to look straight ahead while continuing to feel the map with his palm. Paul appears to also possess supernatural abilities that enable him to locate specific objects. Wells takes Paul to his own office across a printer-filled room, excited about the new development. He explains that the business is in a crucial battle for its survival. Tanner is waiting for them, and while Paul thinks he might be the diviner at the office, they need a diviner to help everyone get back on track. Wells also brings up Paul's irresponsible father, claiming that he completely comprehends how it feels in order to win Paul over to his side. Wells' father, the original founder of the company, coerced his son into signing a contract in which he sold his soul in order to control him forever. Wells gives Paul a significant job because he knows he wants to prove himself. Paul must locate a portable door, but he cannot disclose the mission to anyone. Paul, however, decides to search the company building floor by floor, touching every wall, window, and door, before he can ask for hints or specifics, without success. Vance Bay, whose magic hair moves on its own, interrupts him abruptly. She chit-chats and comes across as very friendly while she speaks. However, her hair spells should be careful for Paul when she mentions illegal magic. The adjacent door blends into the wall. Paul tries to sleep later at home. But Casimir wakes him up suddenly. His capacity comprises of controlling dreams, and that implies this isn't genuine. He needs to realize the reason why Wells recruited Paul, however Paul stays discreet, as guaranteed. Casimir uses magic to begin bending Paul's leg, causing Paul's teeth to fall out and his ears to grow enormously out of frustration. Albeit this is a fantasy, Paul actually scared and can't resist the urge to come clean with him. Casimir prepares to leave after explaining that the portable door could open the debt bank. Even though Paul initially believes he is awakening, this is still a dream. He has also fallen. The following day, Sophie goes to work and finds Rosie kissing a stapler. Paul keeps looking around the company building and finds the words, Bank of the Dead, written on the floor with staplers and an arrow. Paul descends the stairs in the direction indicated by the arrows, and the energy on the walls quickly causes his hands to react, revealing some stunning artwork. He eventually discovers a basement with a dimly lit roll-up door and a message about goblins. Paul nevertheless opens the door, but inside. Before he can fully examine it, there is only a standard storage room. Paul is told by Tanner to leave before anything terrible happens, and he is kicked out and told he isn't allowed in. Judy, who continues to receive messages from the hands emerging from the sewers, continues to collaborate with Sophie in the interim. Judy explains that the hands in question are those of goblins who have been working with wizards for a long time and are able to watch people without being noticed, for the mission today. In order for the pet's owner to be reunited with her cousin in a few days, Judy forces Sophie to sign a lost pet in a store. It turns out to be a picture of the dog and Paul's scarf in this lost dog. Paul is back. He keeps searching the building, but nothing comes up. At the point when he gets back to his office, he finds Tanner contending with Sophie over some issue with her agreement. It's time to head home now. Additionally, Sophie can't help but eat a lot of licorice as they head out, despite her earlier declaration that she detested it. Paul takes her to a pub to get a drink and clean her mouth when she suddenly starts to feel disgusted. They converse for some time before getting into an argument about who is performing better at The following day Casimir appears to be seeing Paul for the first time since the interview when they meet at the office. Paul then ascends the stairs and comes into contact with Cash, who acknowledges that he deliberately distracted Paul the other day, so he would take this organization's meeting rather than his unique one. Paul insists that Monty not let him pass until he can return to the enigmatic room he saw yesterday because of the sensations on his hand. Paul finds that the things inside are a hoax. He crosses it right away and enters a different room with strange specimens and other magic items. Paul discovers a stapler on the floor after playing around for some time. Furthermore, when he tries to touch it, he has resisted. Utilizing his powers, Paul tries again, and inside the stapler is the spirit of a goblin. Paul focuses his power on his hands as the creature points him in a specific direction before vanishes, enabling him to finally uncover the portable door. Paul enters the portable door out of curiosity, and as soon as he closes it, the door transforms into a towel. He also appears in a different area of the building. Paul peeks inside an office when he hears voices and finds Wells discussing Paul's father and the disappearance. Former head of the company. It is revealed that Wells is using employees of the company as test subjects and engaging in human soul trafficking. They would completely lose their sense of self once they sign a soul contract. And Sophie is Wells' next target, which explains her recent shift in taste. Even worse, none of the other board members are aware of this. Additionally, special surveillance equipment is attached to each badge. Paul realizes that he cannot provide them with the portable door. He therefore grabs the towel. He then recites a spell in the destination to read the label's instructions after several failed attempts to use it. To test it, one could teleport anywhere. When Paul mentions the supermarket, he suddenly finds himself in the supermarket's freezer, ignoring the strange looks he receives. Paul gets the towel and gets back to the organization where he chances upon Vance Strait. She reminds him to come to her assuming he knows anything. He runs to his office, however, and ignores her. As soon as he gets there, he explains the situation by tearing off Sophie's badge and throwing it away. He then pulls the towel out to support his claim. Paul murmurs the opening spell. He then discovered himself in an odd location with numerous portable doors on every surface. Someone is heard by Sophie. They are requesting assistance, but Paul quickly takes her out and reads the label again to find out. Before opening the door, he needs to specify where he is going. He tries once more. They were able to successfully reach Paul's apartment during this time. Paul is immediately dragged around the world by Sophie, who is excited about the potential of such power. They surf in Jamaica, visit Egypt and Alaska, and even see the Northern Lights. They continue to show up at work. What's more, Sophie perceives how the cousins rejoin at the shop, making her glad that she's involving her capacities for good. However, they continue to travel whenever they have breaks or nobody is looking. Furthermore, the more time they spend together, the more they bond and become closer together. Paul tells Sophie at the beach one afternoon that he likes her. Despite the fact that Sophie had signed a solemn contract, she is unsure whether her feelings for Paul are genuine. As a result, they agreed to locate the contract and destroy it. Paul barely manages to conceal the towel as the duo enters the company through the portable door. But he sees their clothes on the sand beneath them, quickly comprehending what is occurring. He demands that Paul shut the door and quit the company immediately. He leaves if he does not want severe consequences. Paul and Sophie begin to argue about what to do, and they agree to return later to get her contract. The pair sneaks back into the company building after dark. They are instead dropped in a printer room because the portable door is unable to transport them to Wells' office. The printers are printing their own contracts for things like rental agreements and gym memberships. It turns out that Wells secretly added soul agreements to these everyday contracts to get people to agree to sell their souls without their knowing it. After that, they hear some sounds. They follow the noises and moving shadows into the map room, where papers are flying and small fires are burning, after spotting a stapler on the floor. There's some animal in the shadows eating a pizza. After discovering a contract that confirms they're stealing souls, a scared Paul opens the portable door to attempt to return to Wells' office. However, the door leads them to a dim basement with Bank of the Dead written on the floor. The pair decides to leave through a very creepy tunnel after hearing noises again. At the end of the tunnel, they encounter Anarchy, a group of goblins. They flee and end up behind the goblins, where Tanner suddenly appears through a door. He turns out to be the leader of the goblin clan and a shape-shifting goblin. Wells joins him as he scolds them for not listening to his warnings. Wells orders Leather Expert and his trolls to get lost, yet Leather Expert declines, guaranteeing that without the trolls' help, the wizards are pointless. Wells uses his magic to turn a group of goblins into office after an argument. Supply decreases. Also, Sophie sees the chance to open the portable door and run away. However, they disregarded a regulation. The door belongs to whoever closes it. Wells capitalizes on it to regain control as a result. The duo is now confined to the room with all the doors when they suddenly hear. It is, well, old. It has come to light that Wells used a baby dragon to bring his father here, trapping him there, years ago, and then took control of the business. Paul has good memories. Senior should be able to control his son thanks to a contract. However, in the belief that they still have a chance, the man explains that he cannot use it because the soul contract must be deposited in the Bank of the Dead. Paul starts looking for a way out, but everywhere there are doors. Senior asserts that he has tried before and that all doors lead to nothingness. Paul, on the other hand, focuses on making use of his powers, and after exerting a lot of effort, he locates the exit. When they get out on the streets, an exuberant senior takes them back to the company and starts making plans for them. While he confronts his evil son, he asks Paul to take Wells' contract to the bank. Additionally, Rosie goes to get her husband. With all the soul contracts gone, the group rushes downstairs to where the goblins are moving. Senior finds his son right away, and they start a fierce battle in which they exchange dozens of magic attacks, causing panic among the goblins and destroying the room around them, as magical energy spreads everywhere. Paul and Sophie attempted to evade detection in order to retrieve the door. But a group of goblins knock Paul down and take him captive. Sophie tries to get in touch with Judy for help using her powers. Be that as it may, the trolls charge at her. Paul fences off the goblins in an effort to save Sophie out of desperateness, but he is caught. In that instant, Wells Sr. is hit with a stapler when Rosie arrives with one. Who employs his magic to strike the stapler, releasing a goblin trapped inside. After Rosie reveals that she is also a goblin, she rushes to meet a newly released guy and tells him that the two of them are Tanner's and parents, while a touching moment occurs for the family. Wells uses the opportunity to surprise his father and attack him, trapping him once more. Wells' magic is quick and avoids Paul's attempt to jump on him. The other board members finally arrive at the scene at that point and attempt to stop Wells, but he keeps them away by threatening to kill his father. He then used his magic to ensnare Sophie, requesting Paul to give up his only contract in return for her life. Paul receives a sudden telepathic message from Sophie, in which she informs him that he can use his powers to create portal doors from zero. Paul then concentrates and extends his hand, resulting in the opening of multiple doors in front of him. He immediately hands Well after summoning one of them under his feet and diving into the death bank. Offered agreement to a representative as he requests a unique exchange. The second the representative recovers the underwriter, Soul Wells' drives quickly vanish, which permitted, Well Senior will use magic to entangle his evil son, and Sophie will return the towel to open the dark room's door. Senior, on the other hand, imprisons his son as retribution for what he endured over the following few years. Senior then rips the instructions for using the towels off and declares that the door will never open again. Paul returns with his own powers and gives Sophie her own contract, despite Sophie's concerns about him, which he received in return for Wells. The couple kisses for the last time as everyone rejoices. Then Paul snatches the towel and throws it inside a clothing truck so it's not possible for anyone to get sufficiently close to. Final result. In order to provide Sophie and Paul with permanent employment, the board holds a meeting. Sophie's telepathy is accepted by both of them and utilized. Reveals her genuine feelings to Paul, prompting them to hold hands. In the meantime, the towel makes it to a hotel, where a maid says the spell by accident. Turn on notifications. Please subscribe for more videos like this, and like the channel to support it. Thank you very much for watching.